So welcome back to Learn Python the Hard Way. We're going to start now with exercise number 1, with the first actual program that we're going to write. In the previous video, we learned how to install Python and also how to install a text editor. So we can use, for example, Atom, or I'm going to use Visual Studio Code in this case. And now the first step that we're going to take is that we actually create a new text file, or rather a new Python file that ends in .py. And we can either create that directly from our text editor, or we can create it from the terminal. So here in the last exercise, we actually set up a directory called lpthw for Learn Python the Hard Way. And in this directory here, we created a text file, a test text file last time. And now we can actually get started and actually remove this text file by just typing rm followed by the name. And you can always type tab to autocomplete the name of the file and pressing enter, and then it is deleted. And now we can create a new Python file. And to create that from the terminal, we can just type touch and then followed by the name of the file. So in this case, ex1 for exercise 1.py to make clear that it's actually a Python file. And if we type ls now to list the files, we can see our Python file here. And now we can go ahead and, for example, open that in Visual Studio Code by typing code and then the name of the file and pressing enter. And this is going to open a new file here. Let's just move that to the right side here. And now the first exercise is actually to print out several lines here. So let's get started and entering the print command, opening parentheses, and in here we can enter some strings. So the first one is actually just hello world in double quotes, and we can continue with hello again, then print I like typing this, and importantly here we build up some muscle memory by actually typing this out. So this is fun. And as an alternative, instead of using the double quotes, we can use the single quotes, and that works just as well. So we can either use single quotes or double quotes, but important is that when we open with a single quote, we also close with a single quote. And if we open this string here, this text here, with a double quote, we also have to finish it with a double quote. If we don't do that, if we, for example, do this here, then as you can see actually here in the parentheses, it's not actually closed. So we would have to add a double quote as well. So let's continue. Actually, we can also mix both. So within double quotes, we can then also add a single quote in here. And that works perfectly fine as long as we make sure that we actually close our double or single quote with the corresponding type. So a double quote with another double quote and a single quote with another single quote. And the reverse is also possible. So within single quotes, we can add double quote and then close this. Now, once I entered the print statements here, we can just save this. And now if we go ahead to our terminal, we can execute our file by typing Python, and ideally we type Python 3 to make sure that we actually run Python 3 and not Python 2, followed by the name. Now if we press enter, the file is actually executed, and you can see that those different print statements are executed and they're printed out here to the terminal and they're displayed. So that's the first exercise here, and it's important just to get some practice there to actually type this and then to run the code. And instead of using Python 3 as I just did, you can be more specific and you can type in Python 3.6, which is the actual version recommended here by the book, followed by the name of the file. And that's just going to do the same thing pretty much. So we're going to exercise the code. We're going to run the various print statements. And if instead you're using Windows, then you can install Windows PowerShell, which is pretty similar to the terminal that is shown here in on the Mac or on Linux. And you can enter just the same commands and follow the same approach basically to execute those files here. So there are a couple of additional study drills which are important to cover as well. So we can actually make our script run another line. So we can just add an additional print statement. And again, we can use single quotes or double quotes or a combination of both. It's just important that we actually close our string, our text with the same either single or double quotes that we started it with. So let's just add another line, and just to separate this, I'm gonna add in here print, and then for example 3 dashes. Let's save that and switch over to our terminal. Actually, if you press Ctrl L, you can just clear the screen. And if we press the up arrow, then we can go up to the last command we executed. If we now press enter, it's gonna run our updated file, and we can see we print here, so 3 dashes followed by the additional line that we added. And in addition, we can of course just run a single line. For example, we could either, for example, delete those other lines, save this file, and then run this again. And now it's just going to execute the first print statement here. Or alternatively, especially if you want to just try out and temporarily remove some of the print statements or some of the code, what you can also do is add a hash sign, a pound sign in front of the statement, which is a comment in Python. Actually, it's called an octothorpe. So you can just add this in front of the various statements, and then they're basically commented out. So anything after that pound sign here, that octothorpe, is actually not executed. It's a comment, and therefore it's ignored when it's executed. And there's actually a handy shortcut. So if you select multiple rows here, you can press Command and then the /, or if you're on Windows, Control /, and that's going to comment out all of these lines. We can save this and then just execute that file again. And similar to how when we remove those different lines, it actually ignores all the commented out lines, and it's just going to print out the first statement. And in a similar way, if we just select all of these rows again, we can just press Command and / again. And now it's going to basically remove that comment in front. And now all of these print statements are available again, and we can execute it just in the same way, and it's going to print out all these different statements. So that was the first exercise, just to get started with some print statements. The most important point here is that when we use the print statement, we make sure that we use these parentheses. That's required, at least in Python 3. And then we make sure that we actually, when we open, when we start such a string here, text within those parentheses, we use double quotes and then close it with the double quotes, or we start it with the single quotes and then also end it with a single quote. So that's the first exercise, and that's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to take a look at the next exercise. So see you soon in the next video.